So I'm scrolling down. I uploaded
Yeah,
19,000 URLs and
you
we're
did a
already at
bigger one and
16.
it was still lightning fast. That's awesome. Good to be here after a few weeks of trying to get this organized. We met, I think, a couple months ago talking about 301 redirects and kind of what the best ways of automating that process is so that we don't need to spend so much time buried in sitemaps. I've been out Rapid 301 after having a 350-page migration that left me scarred for life. And then I stumbled across you, WISLR, which is your one.
The WISLR solution is a 301 redirect tool, much like Rapid. And what we try and help accomplish is get agencies and solo consultants to the website migration finish line. Uh, you don't really get to say a website migration is done until you get those redirects mapped. And I'm excited for today's chat because our individual tools have a lot of complementary features, but also unique strengths.
The kind of format is we've got some redirect origin URLs and destination URLs prepared. It's 10,000 in the origin and about 5,000 in the destination. So just going to run them through some of the tools and see how they go and what the results are and kind of speeds and that.
Let's do the SEO migrator. So
Okay.
let's set this up for people. And in complete respect and fairness, as fellow builders, I know you share this sentiment. We very much compliment anyone who's trying to solve this. It's not an easy problem that you can just like wake up and build in a day. So people have succeeded at doing something like this. And this is SEO Migrator by Search Ministry.
Just so you can see what we're working with, we've got this nice long list of URLs here, 10,000 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and just upload the origin URLs to that and the destination URLs to that, and then hit compare.
What I know you have tried to solve, which we have also tried at WISLR, the URL taxonomy can be very different. And if you're doing many different migrations over the course of a year, you just want a tool you can depend on that can take any data set, right? And just always have that accuracy and that speed, no matter what you throw at it. And maybe we help people understand while this is running, all the steps that lead up to this. So you've already curated a file that has all of our origins, meaning the URLs that you're moving away from and all of your destinations, the URLs you're moving to. But what was that process like when you did it to get to that point?
Well, there's a few ways that I've done it over the years. Some of it's just using a tool like Streaming Frog that just gives you that output directly. You can filter it by 200s, 400s, whatever kind of status code you need, and then you can just upload those. Alternatively, I've also had other people that go to the /sitemap and then go into them and create their own list based on that. I built Rapid to have a scraper within it because I come from a web dev background. So I just wrote a scraper that you put in the old URL and the new URL, and it will go ahead and pull the sitemaps and then do the matching. But alternatively, some SEO agencies are just like, I just want to upload sitemaps. So, and then I've seen that that's what these other tools do. So yeah, it's kind of either or depending on what current stack you've got. Now I just use the Rapid scraper.
WISLR, it's just manual hours after manual hours, which you and I both know introduces, like you eventually get fatigued, like at some point you don't want to do this anymore.
Redirect everything to index.
Yeah. Right. Or there's just human error that is introduced, even if you're trying to push through it, like if you're doing it with the most sophisticated formula in a spreadsheet, it still is running in a manual way. And happily, people have better options now, right?
So here we've got this. I'll just export that to the CSV so we can have a good look at it.
So yeah, let's explain what the data set was. So we collected a bunch of URLs from Benjamin Moore. So Benjamin Moore has thousands of paint swatches and all kinds of finishes. So a very cool data set to start from. And what we did is we imagined, what if you were taking the Benjamin Moore site and you were taking it to a much smaller kind of output? And that also exists because if you are a reseller of Benjamin Moore paints, you get to, showcase their product in your own way. So we found a vendor who was a reseller, and the two data sets should be very similar. So you should be able to find any paint URL in the Benjamin Moore set having an equivalent match in the reseller set, but it's very true to how a migration might go. You have these very long URLs that are changing to just a more simple URL taxonomy.
Exactly. So long one with a lot of extra stuff to this kind of short one here.
Yeah. And in the tool that was first running from Search Ministry, it was probably, well, there's no way to know, but it was finding some things accurately and other things it was just not finding between the two data sets.
And then we've got this column over here for the alternative matches, which is pretty cool. Good idea to suggest other alternatives that if it's not super confident, here's probably the next best one to look at.
Absolutely.
Nice work on that. It's not easy to build these things. And this also looks like it's got another few things like mapping content and checking redirects as well, which is cool. We'll head over to this one. This is one by Daniel Emery, and I think Mark shared this, which is how I stumbled across it.
So you go to Colab, which is a product by Google, and you would effectively initiate your own instance of this redirect script, right?
Exactly, yeah. And here it's installing all the libraries. So you just come up to runtime, click run all. These are the packages that it needs in order to work. And then this is script for uploading the documents. And then here it says, please choose the file. So I'm going to upload the origin
Same
URLs.
files.
Same files, exactly the same files. Please upload the destination CSV. We'll upload that and we'll select the URL column and then click let's go.
We haven't spoke to Daniel, but I would imagine he walked down that same road of just frustration having to do this in spreadsheets and thought to himself, and has done a great job at putting together his own Python script, which he has shared with everyone.
Also shared a guide on kind of how to use it as well, because it is quite technical. I think in that guide, Mark explains kind of exactly what's going on and how their algorithm works. Yeah, and this is just available in browser. So looks right now, it's just batching some stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And in case it was spoken very quickly, the origin data set has 10,000 URLs, and it's mapping to a data set that has just under 5,000 URLs. So you're going from a large data set to a slightly less in size consolidated data set. While this runs, we could maybe say some things about each other's tools. When we run this through WISLR, it's very much understood in our algorithm that an origin URL can have many destination match potentials. So, by no means is it eliminating like destination URLs from the list once it matches. It's like, it could be a many to one relationship. You can have many good matches in the data set, which is what people want out of a redirect.
And similar with Rapid, I mean, we have taken the approach of showing what one we think is the best one. On the follow-up side, part of what we built at Rapid is a table that makes it easy to override the staging sites that have been suggested, or the staging URL paths that have been suggested. So it's kind of like a search function, which we'll get to in a bit, because my biggest thing after I wrote it and had it as a CLI tool was that I was still going back into Excel and overriding the paths that the algorithm didn't quite match well, and then I still had to have them in mind and have the sitemap up, and so that was for me the next big pain point.
Right. And like before you made Rapid and before I made WISLR, we very much would have appreciated either of these tools, right? Like they were saving time. So what has been created, does go a long way at helping remove just that manual work.
For sure. And the boringness of it, I think, is the biggest thing.
Of course. Yeah.
Eyes glued to spreadsheets and just got URLs just like rattling around in the mind. It's like that math meme that there is where it's like all the numbers, and formulas zooming in and out, and the guy's there with his head. It's like, URLs, counting URLs when you sleep.
I know.
Yeah.
And, people care about this because it does have business consequence, right? Like it's an information management task. And if you migrate a site and these things are not done well, search most of all suffers. Your organic search, just whatever you built up, can be decimated. It could be reclaimed, but nobody wants to lose something and then have to fight to get it back, right?
Exactly. From the web dev space, there's a lot of emphasis around making things look beautiful. No code, low code space has made it very easy for great designers to be able to build beautiful websites. But then there's this underlying, geeky technical side of things that you don't see on the surface. It looks like we've got an error here. I don't know what that is.
When Python scripts run and encounter certain files, sometimes they can
Yeah,
just run into an issue. So there's an
okay.
error key with address.
Plain error. Okay.
So it looks like the script may have wanted a certain header, perhaps.
Okay. Well, I guess in the interest of time, I know that someone else tested this and said that it was great. I can leave a link to that status as well. Then I guess
Absolutely.
we can
And
just,
these things happen with all
yeah,
tools, right? You just like have to rerun it.
yeah, exactly. Well, I guess I'll move on to Rapid then. So this one, you can just upload any old CSVs and then click generate redirects. And on the backend, Rapid basically only finds one version of the URL within CSV. So if there's duplicates, it cleans the duplicates. If there is a bunch of other characters, it just gets rid of them. So you don't need to map headers and stuff. It will just find the URLs.
Mm-hmm.
And found the 10,000
So
pages.
yeah, with Rapid, same data set,
Yeah,
the longer 10,000 URLs, the shorter 5,000 URLs. Look at that.
exactly.
What does
And
green mean in your system?
so, yeah, the green means high confidence. So you can see that a la mode here is a la mode here, and you've got 210970. So it's found the product code and the product name. One of the most important things is that if you're going to use tools to automate stuff, you need to have the URL structure between the old and the new site at least somewhat comparable. And then tools like
Mm-hmm.
this will be able to do it, be able to pick it up. And then red is low match. So if we just look at confidence on low to high, so it has picked up this, advanced interior kind of keywords, but it's not super confident. Like it's not finding ancient ivory in here, for example, like the ala
Mm-hmm.
mode one was. One's redirected back to the index, and there's 0 exact matches.
Very cool to see that 346. It's like less than 4% of all URLs from your origin.
It's
So
pretty
just
low,
like think
huh?
about that, right? It's very low.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you were a person having to do 10,000 URLs that have to map to their best match. I used to call it, or I still call it, it's like finding a needle in a needle stack.
Yeah.
Like everything looks good in these
Yeah.
data sets, but you got to find the best needle. And there's really only like a very, very small amount of URLs to review.
This handy exclude feature in case you wanted to separate these out into be able to target them when you export. Because if I export to CSV, let's just take a look at what this looks like. Might take a second here. You might want to remove a set of URLs and not 301 redirect them. Maybe set them up as 302s. But there you go. You've got all the URLs there. Incense stick. And even though they're not used as often, we have a htaccess export as well, which puts the longest paths first. There's a bit of an explanation as to why, but it's basically so it doesn't short circuit and just keep going to the parent folder paths.
I love those export features about Rapid. And again, we've made very similar products, but you have this full stack development background. So you've approached it from everything that someone in that role would want to reach for. And then from the WISLR side, my background was e-commerce and SEO strategy. And so
Mhm.
it's approaching it from a path of, okay, what is someone in that seat usually doing with data and needing to organize from an information management standpoint, which we'll share in the Whistler review. But
Yeah.
um,
Um, yeah. So, I mean, that's Rapid. The other thing that you get here is a dashboard where you can manage your other projects. Yeah, at least you've got a copy there. And then your tools here. I don't know if it's worth just quickly running through this site scan as well. So the old
yep.
URL, which is this website here,
Hmm.
and then the new one, which is this Webflow site here. And so coming
Hmm.
from the web dev space, I've done a lot of work in Webflow. So it's quite nice to be able to just put in the old URL, if it's on WordPress or something, and then put in the Webflow staging domain. You've also got
Hmm.
settings here where you only redirect 4 or 4 broken links if you wanted to not redirect all the pages, or if you have staging username and password on the site. But then you can
Hmm.
hit generate redirects, and what it will do is it will go get all the sitemaps, including
Hmm.
nested sitemaps, and it will pull those, and then it will visit all the pages on the website and get all of the URLs from them by crawling it manually. And then it will run it through the same algorithm to give you this output. One cool thing was that project basically replaced work. And so to
Yep.
pick up the last string, but then still
Hmm.
redirect the ones that don't have the projects on the new site to the work tag, which
Yep.
also exists on here. It's quite tricky.
Mhm.
But yeah, you've also got the exact matches, which are excluded. And yeah, same process. You can go through here and, maybe you wanted to override that to a CGI page rather than a blog page because it's a little bit more accurate. Be up to you, and then
Mhm.
you could just, yeah, go ahead and download that. So
Wow. Yep, that's incredibly helpful. And this site scanner, just to help evangelize some other features that are easy to miss, it's like platform agnostic. So you find sitemaps or Webflow or WordPress or whatever you're building a site on.
exactly, exactly.
Cool.
And then lastly, there's this check URLs feature. So this site is not being redirected. This is our test site. But it will go return the status codes here. So you can see that some of these were previously redirected from another migration.
All right, I will share my screen and pull up the Whistler dashboard. Very much going to do the same thing that you were doing, Luke, which is, so after you log into Whistler, this is the view that you will encounter. And if you're using it for the first time, there are some tutorials that we've created, like help docs, so you can get your files ready, um, and just a quick guide for how you should prepare your files. All plans for Whistler have unlimited mapping for URLs. The files that you put to the system have a total URL limit depending on what your plan is. Right now, we can map for our paying plans up to 25,000 URLs
Nice.
per file. So you can run as many as you want through the system. It's just a row count limit. But we're doing the data examples for those 10,000 URLs. And let me just get them primed. So what Whistler is doing is it's ingesting both data sets. You can just put the URL strings in your data set, or you can have this other field that we call dimensions. So a dimension is any kind of meta contextually relevant data to a URL. So sometimes, as we've seen, you get really ugly URLs that have no syntactical like understanding. They're just a jumble of words and numbers for like some very arcane platforms, right? So we realized it would be helpful to append a title to a URL. So you can very much have another column of additional data in case you're in that space. And if you have readable URLs, you can also just add another column. So that way the match is just much more fine-tuned. Your tool has an interface and a GUI that's in the browser, which I very much admire. Whistler, what you can do with our files is download them as CSVs and open them up in the system that you prefer to work with. So it could be Google Sheets, it could be Excel. When you open up the Whistler file, you're going to get a CSV. in our help docs, we explain what your headers are so you know how to read them. The most important field for any user is just this quality score. So Whistler is showing you the origin and URL destination match with the quality score. It's also telling you whether this was based on a SKU. So SKUs, because I come from an e-commerce world, SKUs are another data point you can ingest into the Whistler algorithm, and it'll do a SKU match for you, but none were present in this data set. Whistler also detects that there's a redirect loop, meaning you're just mapping the exact same URL to the other. Again, with data sanitation, sometimes things just get put in there that shouldn't, so we try and call out any redirect loops. So it's ranked in order of best match to least match. And I'm just scrolling halfway down the document. Here we have, just zoom in a little, we have Midnight Blue 1638 matched to Midnight Blue 1638. As we scroll further, we have the Eggshell Eucalyptus 621. And the Benjamin Moore string had a lot of other data, right? So they have their own individual SKU, probably some other product code, which can cause less sophisticated algorithms, from the ones we were showcasing. It can cause it to hallucinate and maybe miss things, but this one caught it. So Whistler was able to do 621 Eucalyptus. The Whistler algorithm does still need some manual review. So I'm scrolling down. I uploaded 19,000 URLs and
You
we're
did a
already at
bigger one
16.
and it was still lightning fast. That's awesome.
Thank you. My compliments to Leon, our principal developer. There's still like less than 4% of URLs that need to just be reviewed. So very much want to acknowledge that.
Be an opportunity to actually add pages. I've often used it to go, this blog hasn't been migrated across yet, which is why it's redirecting to blog and not the blog with the name. And I think it's
Precisely.
important to be able to plug those gaps and have a way of knowing, because if you
Yep.
don't rebuild 1,000 pages, that's quite a bit of a site structure there that's you just will vanish. Even if you do redirect
Yeah.
it, maybe redirecting it's not the best strategy. Maybe it should be rebuilt with exact URLs.
What Rapid and what Whistler allow people to do with like the time that we save, you get to make time for like the data integrity check in this process. So it could very well be that, and I have seen users of Whistler discover this, the algorithm's not making a good match because that data doesn't exist in the new site and someone forgot to create it. Okay, so there's one more feature that I just want to call out. We very much are catering to, so Whistler works with any platform, any data set, much like Rapid, but we do have a roadmap of platforms that we want to cater to first and target certain features that might be helpful to those users. So when you create a Whistler redirect file, you can also download a file that's already pre-formatted for Shopify. So Shopify allows for bulk import of redirects. And if you're going through a migration from any other platform to Shopify, you can take the same data set I just showed, but download the Shopify version and it'll already have the syntax for the headers that Shopify needs with the relative URL path. So you can just upload that into your staging environment on Shopify.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's a really nice looking dashboard too, though. You guys have done a great job.
Thank you very much. I love how we both appreciate the work that we're each doing, and we're each doing it in our own way. Like the features that you've created for Rapid, the site scraper, the GUI to help map URLs. Like we very much admire that, and thank you for saying the dashboard is helpful.
The web dev hat and then the SEO hat, and you kind of see them reflected in the way that, and especially your emphasis with, SKUs and all of that kind of stuff as well. It's really cool to see.
People watching this may be puzzled by the fact that we have each made competing products, but we're working together to promote them. And I just want to acknowledge, like, not many people would do that. And you are one of those people who, very much just want to like further the mission, like help people get this done better in any way possible, first and foremost. And yes, you know, make a business out of it. And so not many people would collaborate in this way, Luke. So I just want to compliment you for breaking the boundaries.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you actually reached out to me. I was quite surprised. Initially, I was shocked and I was like, oh no, there's someone else that's been building a solution and it's a great solution. And then after speaking with you, we're both approaching it from our own kind of way. And it's been nice to kind of collaborate in the education piece, because I think that there's a lot of what we're doing that's based in education.
Mm-hmm.
And you're got great knowledge from the SEO perspective on education, and I've also got it from the web development, SEO implementation, technical perspective, as well. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been fun to not be on the journey of redirects alone, because they're not sexy. They're not a fun thing. They make people's eyes glaze over. I saw someone 9 hours in spreadsheet she spent, and at that time she didn't get in contact with me because Rapid wasn't working because it didn't have the passwords built in. But I built in the
Mm-hmm.
password feature and then did the redirects before she had actually finished doing it manually, and she had a 9 hour head start. And then afterwards, just like, oh, thank God that this tool exists and I never have to do that again. And I think that's why we're both here and building these things, because there's a huge pain there for the people that
Mm-hmm.
get stuck with the task of doing it. And computers, when you program them well, are able to do these things much, much faster and more efficiently without getting tired. So fast that we don't even have enough time to brew coffees anymore.
Exactly. Before we could brew coffees, and but no, you've done the work. Leon's done the work. I mean, maybe you could send a text and then your file would be done, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You can respond to the text.
So today we've gone through 4 different solutions, and I'm sure there's more out there of how to map 301 redirects in a more seamless, pain-free way. There was this script by Daniel Emery, and definitely hit him up on LinkedIn. There was this SEO migrator tool
By
by
Search Ministry.
Search Ministry, and that also has some other little things there to check out. Yeah, and so you've got WISLR by Tony and Rapid by myself, and they both were able to do the 10,000 redirects quite fast and quite accurately, and have your 301 redirect mapping experience, say, what was it, 90 to 95% automated.
Mm-hmm.
And then all you have to do is just, check the last few ones in the ways that were shown, and Bob's your uncle.
Love that. And as an extra incentive, and thank you for those of you who have made it to the very end of this fun recording for us. We each wanted to offer 15% off either of the tools. So there will be promo codes on screen, and you can go to either one and choose a plan, or just get started using it and pay a little less